Hi. You want to learn Japanese, don't you? Thought so. You came to the right place. I'm going to teach you some Japanese. Sorry if I'm breathing hard. I just went yard on a rotisserie chicken not 5 minutes ago. Give me a second to collect myself. Now that that's out of the way, if you're here for this kind of Japanese, you've come to the wrong place. We're going to learn actual Japanese, not anime Japanese, which is a whole entire different thing, although anime terminology will come up. And by the end of this whole entire series, which will take definitely longer than it took me to devour that rotisserie chicken 5 minutes ago, you should be able to watch anime, if that's your thing, without subtitles, or with slight subtitles. It just depends. Now, before we get into everything, I need to preface this whole sort of series, since this is the first video. There will be several skill levels in Japanese. There already is. There's elementary, intermediate, advanced, advanced plus. It just depends. The way that I'm going to teach it, you're going to have elementary, intermediate, advanced, and then we'll do, I suppose, an advanced plus that goes over JLPTN1 stuff. We'll get into that way later. As of right now, you have decided to click on the first episode of the basic elementary Japanese series. Congratulations. Welcome. Sorry you don't have your own rotisserie chicken, but I'm sure you know where to find one of those. Now, learning Japanese takes a long time. You have to stay dedicated. You have to put in effort. You have to put in the time. You have to study, whether it's on your own, whether it's with other people. I will always be here for speaking practice, but that's, again, something we'll get into way later. For the time being, if you put in the time, if you put in the effort, if you keep up with it, if you study every day, and study the way that you're supposed to, you will learn Japanese in no time. It's honestly not that difficult once you get down the main sentence structures, grammar, vocabulary, stuff like that. Once you get the hang of that, you're gonna fly. Once you get to the intermediate section of this course, you're gonna fly by. You're gonna learn Japanese in no time. Now, I'm self-taught for the most part. Took me about 4 years, 3.5, 4 years to gain full fluency. It will take, and with speaking partners, with constant study, the average for elementary Japanese is about 300 hours of study. Intermediate, you're looking at about 600 hours, and advanced, you're looking 900 plus hours. It just depends on how quickly you pick up on stuff, how much you practice. And really, that is entirely on you. You could practice for 2 hours a day. You could practice for 6 hours a day. I mean, it's entirely your choice, whatever your fancy is. I know we're all going crazy for this coronavirus thing. Yeah, this quarantine sucks. I myself am self-isolating due to personal reasons. I don't have the disease that I know of. My wife doesn't have the disease that I know of. She's a nurse, so she works in a hospital. And her floor is now a COVID wing. So I'm back here. So I thought, what better time to teach everyone Japanese and potentially other languages down the road than while I'm stuck in my beautiful home office that I also now work from. Please get me out of here. Okay, so preface is out of the way. First lesson is going to be bare fundamentals. So, I guess we're just going to jump right into this. I don't know how else to do it. Most, if not all, sounds in Japanese are broken up into little chunks. Now, these chunks are called mora. For our purposes, and just for sort of beginner basics, think of mora as syllables. Okay, so let's take a commonly used Japanese word that English people even use. Sayonara. Right? If you were to say that in Japanese, it would sound like sayonara. Sayonara, that means goodbye. Farewell. Sa is a mora. So sayonara. Sayonara. An entire word is made up of these individual mora. In the Japanese language, there are 3 alphabets. First is Hiragana, and that's what you need to start learning first alongside Katakana. And then kanji, which that's entirely, we're saving that for way down near the end. We'll do kanji quite a bit, but for now, hiragana and katakana are going to be the top 2 alphabets that you need to learn. Each of those symbols in both hiragana and katakana correspond to a mora. The syllables start off as follows: a, I, u, e, o. And in Japanese, all of the vowel sounds are very sharp and very short. So in English, we have A, E, I, O, U, and sometimes Y. But that is not how it goes in Japanese. You have a, I, u, e, o. And once you say the syllable, you basically stop. And that goes for the rest of the mora that you have, right? So the next level of mora, or sounds, or syllables, would be ka, ki, ku, ke, ko. So, just like before, a, I, u, e, o. You just add k in front of it. Sounds easy, right? Cool. And so on and so forth. You have sa, shi, su, se, so, and ta, chi, su, te, to. All of the sounds are very sharp, very, very short. So I will add in to this video, and you can pause it if you want to look at it, a chart of all hiragana mora and what their sounds are, as well as the katakana and what all of those mora are and the sounds are for those as well. And we'll go over how to write them sort of at the end. There's a bunch of stuff that goes on with it. You have to remember stroke order. You have to remember size and spacing. All of that we'll get into, but for now, the thing that you need to do is learn hiragana. It takes hours of practice. It takes hours of memorizing hiragana and katakana. It took me about 2 hours to have them down, and then I practiced that for maybe a week or so. But once you practice them, you will be able to sort of read in Japanese. Even if you don't know what the words are, you'll still be able to make the actual Japanese word. There are things that we're going to learn later on, such as pitch accent, which is huge in Japanese. We're not going to get into that now, or at least right this very video, maybe the next one or the one after. But there are a bunch of little nuances that you need to know once you get the hiragana and katakana alphabets down. And then again, we'll get into kanji down the road sometime. Kanji's very interesting. It's the third alphabet. There are tens of thousands of kanji characters. Most native Japanese speakers will have memorized several thousand, up to 10 to 20,000. It just depends. Older populations tend to know more kanji than younger. And I would say most Japanese people know 10,000 plus. We'll just leave it at that. Very few people know the full 50 to 60,000 kanji characters because they are so complicated when you first jump into them. And memorizing them, each kanji sort of has 2 meanings. But again, we'll get into that in another video. The thing that I want to impart most for this lesson is practice, effort, and time. Japanese is widely regarded as one of, not the most difficult languages to learn, but one of the most time-intensive languages to learn. It takes a tremendous amount of time to learn not only how to read and write, but also speak the language, because there are so many different ways to speak it. In Japanese, you have what is known as honorifics, and we're going to get into those. I would actually rather teach honorifics as sort of the baseline, and that way of speaking is called keigo. It's professional honorific Japanese, sort of the base. If you end up speaking keigo Japanese to a Japanese person, you will very rarely go wrong, especially if you're meeting them for the first time, or if you just visit Japan or happen to see a Japanese person that you want to speak to. If you use keigo, very often you will end up addressing them in the correct way and speaking to them in the correct way. So I guess that'll be it for this first video. I know I didn't teach very much. This is more sort of a foundational kind of thing. Once you get Hiragana and Katakana down, then we can move forward with vocabulary, sentence structures, things like that. So for now, my recommendation to all of you watching this would be learn Hiragana and Katakana simultaneously. Don't learn one and then the other. What I did was I learned how to write a, I, u, e, o, and the Hiragana for it, and then I learned the Katakana a, I, u, e, o, and I would write them all out in a row, then move on to the next ka, ki, ku, ke, ko, and so on and so forth. Now, I will say, when you are learning Hiragana and Katakana, you have various fonts and various ways of writing them, and I will sort of give you guys a good resource down in the description for looking at different font styles and recognizing the various fonts of Japanese that you may come across. More often than not, it's really only going to be two, handwritten and sort of standard font that you would see if you were to turn on Japanese news or something. You would see you would see professional font or standard font. And then that way, 'cause there are a few characters that look a little bit different, like the character ri looks one way written, but looks another completely different way when you read it, depending on the source. If it's like a textbook, it looks entirely different. But I'll put that source down in the description so you guys can peruse it at your leisure. So, again, this is the third time I've tried to pass on what your takeaways from this video should be. Last time, I promise. Takeaway number 1, Hiragana and Katakana. Learn both of them. Learn them before you even start learning vocabulary. If you can read and write the individual characters and understand the mora, learning the language will make it so much easier for you to retain in the long run, because you'll be differentiating it from English or from Romaji, which is Japanese written in English characters, and the only time you will ever see that on this channel is for pronunciation purposes, but even then, very sparingly. Romaji is a very outdated, very inefficient way to learn how to speak Japanese and to learn how to read Japanese. I see people, specifically on groups on Facebook and elsewhere, that are learning how to speak Japanese and they're using Romaji, but Romaji is not a good source for you to learn, especially as an English speaker, because the way syllables and vowels are said in Japanese are completely different than the way that you would say them in English for the most part. So, takeaway 1, Hiragana and Katakana, no Romaji at all. If you see Romaji, close the page, delete your history, don't go back to that source. Romaji is terrible. Takeaway number 2, practice. There are workbooks that I will again link to in the description, to where they're sort of grids, and they make it to where you can write your Hiragana and Katakana characters with better accuracy, and also on a sort of bigger scale, so when you need to shorten them or need to scale them down in size, you'll be able to with no problem. And then the third takeaway, aside from practice, is, like I said, Japanese is very time intensive. If you put in the time, you will learn it. It doesn't matter if you learn it in 6 months, which is very difficult, or if it takes you 6 years. If you put in the time, you eventually will learn it, and you will come out the other side with a brand new skill, new ways to have conversations with people, new ways to read things. You'll be able to watch and listen to anime, if that's your thing, without subtitles, for the most part, because anime is crazy, in terms of the way they speak. Anyways, Hiragana, Katakana. I'm lengthening this out. Jeez, I don't talk to a lot of people anymore, okay? Quarantine is killing me, okay? I'll have to keep from crying. Hiragana, Katakana. I don't remember the second one. Practice. Third, time and effort. Those 3. Practice and learn Hiragana, Katakana. Put in the time, put in the effort, and you will walk away becoming a Japanese speaker. Again, continue on with this lesson, or this course, for the next lesson in Japanese, I guess. The next video will I will be operating under the assumption that you have learned Hiragana and Katakana both. So if you haven't, go watch, just watch this video, and then learn them, and then go to video number 2. Bye.